Power Struggle was this past Monday, and it was a long show, but it delivered outstanding wrestling and a lot of news. We had a tournament final worthy of the block action that preceded it. There was a title change, important challenges, multiple important challenges, intriguing news about World Tag League, the return of Kenny Omega to a New Japan ring, plus a challenge from another AEW wrestler, and not the one most of us had on our radar. But I don't think many people will really be complaining, though. So we not only saw an excellent wrestling show, but we saw the direction for the company come into focus. We're going to talk about all that today, look ahead to action coming up this week. So with Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. This is Speaking of Strong Style. Welcome, everyone, to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news and information and everything else that comes up, the events about New Japan Pro Wrestling. We had a lot of all of it this past week. We're contributors to the Fight Game Media Network. Jeremy and I are.
Hi.
And, man, you know, it's one of those weeks where we had an outstanding wrestling show, but just so much came out of it. And it goes to what we've talked about in past weeks, that this whole thing of the G1 winner challenging a King of Pro Wrestling and not icing down anything for the Tokyo Dome until later, it's working for me, because this whole Power Struggle show has led to a lot of interesting things. I like the direction that I'm getting so far. I'm feeling good about New Japan right now. Jeremy, I don't know if you share my enthusiasm after this, but it was an exciting week.
I am incredibly conflicted about how we got here, but now that we're here, I'm fine with it. I'm not like over the moon, you know, like some of the matchups made are like, okay, you know, like the main event or one of the IWGP title match. I don't love the story behind it, but I can learn to love it, if that makes any sense.
I don't think that story is totally told yet. I think there's some chapters of this before we get to the Dome, which I think could heat it up a little bit.
I would agree, but I'm very concerned that there are going to be people that show up to watch Wrestle Kingdom that are not like every step of the way this kind of thing. And so it's just kind of like you have your moments to hit, and you only have a few of them. And I think World Tag League is probably going to hit a couple of those other moments, and hopefully they'll get viral. Hopefully that something will happen that will get people talking. But this was it kind of thing. This week really felt like, okay, this is our Wrestle Kingdom match. And then you got the reaction. And so we need to kind of unpack that at some point today. But that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, okay, this was my concern was how the reaction would be if there were certain main events announced for the IWGP title. We're here. I'm into it, but I do have reservations.
Well, there's an important note, is that none of these matches have officially been announced as the main event yet, by the way.
No,
that's the other thing. And that's conspicuous to me, is that we have a world title match, and it might be. They might say it next week. That's the main event. But they have not, at this point, said this is the main event match. So what else is cooking out there? Well, we have a couple of thoughts on that. We're going to get into those. And we have the A Troops with us already live today. You can tell if there's a little bit of excitement. We have Dunstan's here, Colin is here, Tyler's here, Matthew. Glad to see all of you guys. And to everyone who's watching live, we're glad you're with us and glad you're into this. So, of course, we're going to talk about Power Struggle. We're going to go over that. We're going to go over the preview for Fighting Spirit Unleashed, which, if you have NJPW World, not a pay-per-view. The pay-per-view this month is Historic Crossover. That one is a pay-per-view. But tomorrow, even though it's an NJPW Strong show, those are often pay-per-views. This one, if you have the subscription, you get the show. There it is.
What I do like, though, if they've done a different business plan here, it is still available on Triller. So if you're like an AEW watcher and you want to watch this thing, but you don't want to go through the trouble of getting a subscription for a month, you just want to watch a show, you could be dumb and pay $20 on Triller, or you could get a $10 subscription to New Japan World and get everything else that comes with it. It's entirely up to you. But there is a business model to make New Japan as accessible as possible to all viewers, regardless of what their commitment is. And I kind of applaud them for that.
USVA guy is here. He's in Boston. Sir. He's in Boston getting ready for that Lowell, Massachusetts show.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I hope everyone's having a great time in Boston tomorrow. Looking at that card, I think it's going to be a bit of a banger.
So I got some news for me. Of course, we mentioned before that I'm going to be in Tokyo. I'm terribly excited for my birthday. A lot of things going on here. I've moved house. You might notice, for those of you who watch on YouTube, my background is different, just a blank wall. It's because we've just moved in. And I'll get some decorations and we'll spruce the place up here in the coming weeks. But we're doing all that. I'm headed over to Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty. And Jeremy, I have been busy trying to take advantage of Wrestle Kingdom Week in Tokyo, because of course, similar to WrestleMania, just about everybody, all the promotions, put on major shows around Wrestle Kingdom. And I'm thrilled to say that I have gone through buysumotickets.com, which is a service that
also
is
not a sponsor of our podcast. He just
although if they want to sponsor, just give me a call.
Sure.
My email address is right here. There you go, if you want to sponsor. But buysumotickets.com, which is literal, you can buy sumo tickets through them and things, but they help out with a lot of other things, including professional wrestling. And I have ordered and received tickets here through them. Very easy, by the way. It's all in English. It's they do all of the currency moves for you, all that kind of stuff. And I have tickets now for Stardom New Year's Dream.
Hey, now
you can say that. Yeah, Stardom New Year's Dream. That's the January 3rd show, and I'm going to have
barcode too and focus.
I will have to have someone tell me where I'm sitting. This is all in Japanese. My Japanese is improving, but there's a lot here that
we're not there yet. We're not there,
not quite there yet. And then I also Tokyo Joshi Pro wrestling show on January 4th. So that's a Korakuen Hall at 11 o'clock in the morning. And then, so I will watch that show over at Korakuen. And then, depending on time of day, Korakuen Hall is literally in the shadow of the Tokyo Dome. You just basically go out the doors of Korakuen Hall and turn left, go up a set of steps, and you're in the baseball stadium. And so that'll be at 7 o'clock that night. So that's going to be a doubleheader. January 3rd, that's over in Ariake area, a new venue for Stardom. So I'll be seeing the January 3rd show for Stardom. So far,
when you come back from Japan.
I believe I'm coming back on the 7th, and I have an order in for New Year's Dash tickets, but those aren't on sale yet. I just haven't ordered. Try to get me Dash tickets. I'll see if I get them. That one's a little bit of a ticket. There's also an All Japan show on the 3rd that I'm trying.
Look at you!
If all this works out, I will be seeing 6 shows from 4 promotions in 4 days.
That's like a WrestleMania weekend itinerary.
And Tyler's saying I should vlog my experience for the rest of the ports that can't get to Japan. Well, keep in mind, this is a major birthday for me, and a lot of this is a gift from my wonderful girlfriend.
Steven's birthday is actually on Wrestle Kingdom Day, and so it's kind of a milestone birthday. There's a couple of things. We're not going to talk about how ancient this man is, but I
stay out of the sun, so I look younger than I am. But
Sandstone ages better than him.
This is true. When God said, "Let there be light," I threw the switch.
You will be in Japan. We will be doing shows with you from Japan. It's going to be a blast.
Mm-hmm.
I just found out the We Work Stiff guys are going to be in Japan as well.
Oh, really?
We should do a recording together.
I really should. Yeah, I should meet up. Is Josh the one guy going to be there?
Josh and Dave are both going.
They're both going.
They through the support of their Patreon, they have been able to make it work this year.
Beautiful.
So that is going to be a thing.
I should meet up with those guys somewhere.
Yeah, no, I will reach out to them and let them know the whole deal, and maybe we can get something going with that. But that's going to be a great time, and I am talking about going to Wrestle Kingdom next year because I think the Tanahashi retirement thing is kind of a thing. Like I could do that. Yeah, I can make that happen.
I think you should. I'm planning on going back to Japan in May with Ginger and spending a couple of weeks there. Maybe I'll be able to. I won't be able to have it as solid wrestling because she's going to be there with me, and I don't want to do that to her. But this time it's just
hopefully you'll get the Super Junior Tag League to coordinate with whatever town you're in.
She is interested in going to Toriano's bar. She is interested in that. And she went to Tudo-Con with me, which is the superstore, not the New Japan, that's the Tokan shop, but Tudo-Con is this superstore of Japanese wrestling memorabilia and DVDs and magazines and ring-worn gear. And it's heaven for a wrestling fan. And she is willing to let me spend a couple hours poking around that place and spending more money than I should. But
Awesome.
she is willing to do all that. But I don't want to take her to 6 shows in 4 days.
We have
strictly for me.
partners in life, Steven.
We really
That's
do.
all I have to say. Speaking of Toriano, he was on the second match on the Power Struggle card. And since we're about 10 minutes in, we should probably skip the small talk. We're going long today. It's happening.
We'll see. I'm going to try to get this.
Going?
All right. Power Struggle, which was at the Edion Arena in Osaka, 3,773 people in attendance. Another reason why I'm curious about Wrestle Kingdom, just because that's down 10% from last year or so. It was they were about 4,100, a little over 4,000 at Edion Arena for Power Struggle last year. This time 3,773. But a good crowd, an enthusiastic crowd anyway. So we began with the kickoff 6-man tag match. This is Ninja Mac, the DKC, and Yo facing Captain Suicida and Tiger Mask and Shoma Kato. So this was
and Suicida.
Capitan. Yes, you're right. That is true. I should pronounce that more correctly. But the first few matches on this card were really showcases for the people who had been guests over the Super Junior Tag League to give them a little bit of shine on the way out. So this time, Ninja Mac and Capitan Suicida looked really good in this. And I've been saying for a while that Ninja Mac should stay, but I think he'd also be a huge hit in CMLL. I don't know what his plans are after pro wrestling.
He announced he's out. He's not coming. This was his last match in Japan.
Yeah. I was really hoping that he would stick around. Maybe he's going to Mexico. I don't know. We'll see where he's going. But Suicida did his senton onto the floor. I mean, it's a senton. He runs across the ring, senton over the top rope to a guy laying on the floor. Basically, just bumps himself onto the floor. It's really it. And then
that handspring one that he did at the end was fantastic.
And then the Ninja Max special, where he just does a series of handsprings and then over the top, crowd pleasing stuff. DKC ended up getting the win on Shoma Kato. Of course, that's why the Young Lions are there. And entertaining enough and a good way to send Capitan Suicida and Ninja Mac out with a bang.
I truly laughed when the shine for the DKC and Ninja Mac on the end was the forehand spring suicide dive onto the outside, followed by the DKC doing a springboard elbow on Shota.
No, there are levels to this game, right? There are levels to this game.
Like, he got the win. It was a high flying move, but you're just kind of like, cool after the Ninja Mac maneuver.
Hard act to follow that one. So after that, we had a 10-man tag team. This is just to get everybody else in there. And the Bullet Club, so it was Clark Connors, Drilla Maloney, Gabe Kidd, Robbie X, Taichi Ishimori. And they face the Intergalactic Jet Setters, so that's Kevin Knight and Kushida, the Velocities, Jude London and Paris De Silva, and Katsuya Murashima. And we're pronouncing it that way, I guess, now closer to the way you pronounce Hiroshima rather than Murashima. I guess I noticed that both Chris and Walker were pronouncing that one a little bit differently than before. Maybe maybe we have a little course correction there. Maybe it's more Murashima, which makes sense. Like I said, it's not the proper pronunciation is
maybe
it's not
rolls off the tongue a little bit better.
Yeah, it's not Hiroshima, it's Hiroshima. So maybe Murashima is a little bit more accurate. Anywho, we had that, and this was Dragon Dia getting some shine. That's the next match. This one is showcase spots for Velocities and Kevin Knight, mostly. But here's the deal. At the end of this one, this is only about 6 minutes long.
It was not a showcase for them.
It was not, however, a showcase for Murashima. He had to take everybody's finisher on that side over there. He took a bloody cross. He took a hit and run. He took no chaser. He took a driller killer. He took a pile driver. I think they're still scraping poor Murashima off the mat. Yeah, he's still laying on the floor of Edion Arena. They've moved the ring out, and he's still laid out there splayed. So I hope he's okay. Everybody took care of him, but it did get to be a bit of a joke that everybody hit him with the finisher for the win there.
So a little bit of backstory on this one. About 10 a.m. on Sunday morning, I hit up Big Dave and I'm like, "Are you gonna watch this show tonight? Because I don't know if I'll be able to stay up watching it like by myself." And he's like, "Yeah, kind of the same. Come on over, we'll watch it." And so I'm watching it with him, but he's late getting back to his house. So I'm sitting in my car and I'm watching the pre-show and then this match. And I'm watching the finish, and I'm like, "Oh, they're doing the shot chase or whatever thing that the Drew Maloney and Clark Connor do, and they're going to get the pin." And I'm like, "Oh no!" oh God, oh, they're murdering him. Oh, he's dead. And I'm like, okay, well, that was a hell of a match. And then I get into Dave's house, like, yeah, we should watch everything all over again. And I'm like, sure,
Yeah.
we could do that. And so we get to the finish of this match on the rewatch for me. And he's like, oh, so that's the finish. I'm like, oh no, Dave. Oh no, hold on.
No.
And so, like,
Get comfortable.
oh wait, there's more, Dave. Nope. And it's like, he's like, oh geez, they killed him. And I'm like, yeah, they killed him dead.
If you watch though, everybody took care of him. I think it's one of those things where
great.
everybody likes the kid. You know, they're just
Like, it was the Bullet Club showcase where everyone's supposed to be reminded these guys are like the final bosses. You know, they're the gang of Cobra Kai in the real world.
After that, we had an 8-person tag match. This is LIJ, Bushi, Hiromu, Naito, and Tsuji. And they took on Dragon Dia and Taguchi, Honma, and Toru Yano. And this one is where Dragon Dia got his shine. Taguchi and Naito did a few fun spots together, but this was a house show match. Hiromu ended up getting the cloverleaf on Tomoaki Honma for the victory. The biggest news out of this was afterwards in the post-match comments, Naito goes up to Hiromu, says some nice things about him, which Hiromu was rightfully suspicious of, since that doesn't happen very often. But Naito said he'd like to team with Hiromu in World Tag League, and that is indeed what is happening. So we're going to have 2 very intriguing LIJ tag teams in World Tag League, but Naito and Hiromu Takahashi. So again, our suspicions about things leading in a certain direction continue, but I'm happy to see it. I think it's going to be interesting World Tag League just because of the interesting combos we have in it that we haven't seen before.
There's a lot of new teams. A lot of them.
12 of the 16 are first-time entrants, and we'll talk about all that later on. We'll get to all that, but Hiromu and Naito is an intriguing one for a bunch of different reasons, and I was happy.
They could win the whole thing.
Could.
Yeah, not entirely out of the realm of possibility. Fun match. Just giving the spotlight to the LIJ guys. Honestly, it was great. For sure. Yeah.
Up next, we had an angle more than a match. And here's what I mean by that. We had House of Torture, which was Evil and Ren Narita, facing Hiroshi Tanahashi and Oleg Boltin. Now, of course, Boltin is filling in for El Phantasmo, who is battling cancer at the moment. And we, of course, wish Riley the very best as he goes through all of that. But in the meantime, Boltin took his spot in this match. And this wasn't anything special. They weren't working particularly hard. Some House of Torture interference from Yujiro and Dick Togo and all that led to the finish, which is Narita getting the pin on Oleg. And then he started beating down Boltin. They also attacked Tanahashi. They beat him up. They drug him all the way to the back and beat him down again. But there wasn't a whole lot of point to this, Jeremy. They didn't do anything to him in the back that they couldn't have done in front of the crowd. Evil for a while was holding a pair of scissors, but then didn't do anything with them. I'm not sure why they had to, quote unquote, kidnap him just so that they could drag him to the back, beat him up again. The whole thing was just a little haphazard. And
just an angle for what the other thing, right?
I guess so. But meanwhile, back in the ring, Narita continues to beat down Boltin. Ryohei Oiwa came out and helped, and then challenged Narita for a TV title match. That brought Jeff Cobb out of the back. Cobb saying, no, I'm the former champion. I'm the next in line for a shot. And so we're getting a 3-way at Wrestle Kingdom for the TV title. Jeff Cobb, Ryohei Oiwa, and Ren Narita. One of the themes I've noticed here, Jeremy, in some of these early in the card Wrestle Kingdom matches is the concept of let's get as many people on this card as humanly possible. So we're getting a 4-way, we're getting a 3-way, we're getting a couple other things just to try to get the roster.
They're stacking and packing.
Yeah, exactly. And this is another example of that. So it was a little bit awkward in execution. It wasn't awful. I'm not trying to say this was a bad deal, but it was a little bit clunky just to get us there. But I guess you only need one angle for it, really.
Yeah, no, it was angle heavy. I think it might have been able to work better with El Phantasmo because I think Phantasmo would have been able to sell a lot of the things that Boltin Oleg was basically like, okay, I'm supposed to do what? Okay, I'm going to go do this thing. So there's a little bit of what your role should be that, Boltin wasn't really able to do. And it's just going to take time, and it's not the aspect of it that you've got to work through. When they brought out to cut Tanahashi's hair, I thought they were really going to cut his hair. I thought so
too. I thought, we're doing a hair match at Kingdom. That's not a terrible idea, by the way. Not a terrible idea, but
It may not. It may be that that's something that comes again in the World Tag League with the too.
Yeah. There'll be more to it.
But yeah, the setup for the TV title match. Hey, get Ryohei Oiwa on Wrestle Kingdom in a title match. Jeff Cobb should be like featured somewhere on the card. I'm okay with all of it. It's great.
Yeah, it'll be fine. And of course, it'll be quick because it's a TV title match, and they're going to have a lot to get through that night.
Yes, sir.
Then we had the special challenge match. Now, this one was screaming out Angle for us, and we were right because we figured that whoever wins this thing might pop up a little bit later and challenge. But there was another Angle that we did not anticipate as part of this, and this was what kicked it all off. Shota Umino defeated SANADA in the next match, and Umino was not booed at all here, despite everything they were saying about, I don't know, those crowds in Osaka. Here, at this point in the show, he was not booed against SANADA. They seem to even take his side against SANADA a little bit, which maybe tells you that the angle with SANADA later was exactly the right call because he's just been a dud as a babyface in that role. So SANADA was a little bit more aggressive, which was foreshadowing later events. We had some good intensity from Umino here. I mean, I liked the match overall. It was fine. Umino countered Deadfall into a Death Rider to win. SANADA played completely despondent, depressed, crushed after the loss, just like, what am I doing? I don't have a path to Wrestle Kingdom now. Similar to what we saw in some ways. I'm trying to think of who was like when Hiromu was depressed after losing. They've done this with certain guys where they go on this losing streak and they just wear it on their sleeve that they're just despondent. That's the SANADA we got walking off. He wasn't crying or anything like that, but he wasn't too far away from it. Was how they were playing it. And then backstage comments as he laid on the floor trying to think of something, anything to say. A guy that doesn't speak all that much, right? Who would come up and begin whispering in his ear? But Geto, and we would find out why later.
It was SANADA was the real life version of that Ishii meme. He's like, write whatever you want about me. I'm a sad, sad man. This was actually okay. This was a really good match. I really liked this match. It was when I felt like the power struggle card really started cooking in terms of like the caliber of the work rate and the matches and really seeing like there was angles at the lower part of the card paying off the top part of the card. People cheered Shota at this point because this is where they want to see him, upper mid card, making his way, like doing the thing when he's out kicking his coverage or like being Shota, not the babyface, but Shota, the, whatever's going on in his personal life, or just out kicking whatever he's trying to do, like where he is on the card, just trying to climb. People aren't ready for it. And they want to be ready for it. They want to cheer this guy. But it's that sense of like, you are trying to put this guy down our throat. Like you are trying to make this happen. And this is not what we want right now. We are getting there. But you are forcing this, and we are pushing back. And I think they know that, and I think they're doing it on purpose, frankly.
Oh, sure.
But right here, right now, I liked everything about this presentation. Like, this was like, okay, if you built this Shota over the course of, say, 9 months going to the G1 next year, we got something. But when you're going for, like, later on tonight, I'm like, okay, no, this is not. This is not what I'm feeling. This does not feel organic.
I got a comment. We have a lot of questions here from Dunstan. We're going to get to those, Dunstan. I know you're not able to necessarily be here live for the whole show, but he said, with the choices of the next title pictures, which one outside of the world title would you change? I would go with Oiwa not being involved with the TV title and just have a big special singles bout at Wrestle Kingdom. We don't know all of them. Like, we don't know what the Never title is going to do yet. Mm-hmm. At Wrestle Kingdom, we don't really know what the tag team title is going to do yet. We know that the champs are going to face the World Tag League winners probably, most likely anyway. They haven't announced that it's going to be at Wrestle Kingdom, but we imagine so. And there's a couple other things that we don't know if there's going to be King of Pro Wrestling, and they can't because the King of Pro Wrestling is also a World Tag Team champion at the moment. But I guess that's the whole thing is that the King of Pro Wrestling starts over again at Kingdom, doesn't it? Anyway. Point I'm trying to make is like we don't have all the information. The three-way does feel, like I said, that the angle for it was a little bit clunky, and I would almost rather have Oiwa doing something other than the TV title just doesn't quite feel right on that. I wouldn't mind if Oiwa had a bigger match there, since we're all so high on him. We kind of want to see Oiwa maybe win that special singles match and be the guy that comes and challenges somebody at the end of the night, whether that's Finlay or it's, the champ and things. So, I kind of agree with Oiwa, maybe not in the TV title picture, but, let's see what they have in mind for it. Let's see what they end up doing with it. There's a lot of chapters to go before we're finished with that book.
I'm going to hold off on answering that question, but we will get back to it very shortly.
After that, then, we had an IWGP Tag Team title match. So this was the United Empire, Great-O-Khan and Hanare, challenging TMDK. This was a surprise. We had a title change right here. So there was good stuff with Mikey Nichols and Hanare in particular. They worked well together.
Headbutt.
Well, yeah, the headbutt. I could do without that, of course. But TMDK began hitting big moves, but United Empire would break up the pin attempts or kick out and things. And TMDK decided that the only way to finish these guys off, we need to do the Super Tank Buster. So they tried. And Shane Haste went up to the top rope. Mikey Nichols started getting the guys lined up for it. However, United Empire got out of it, knocked Shane Haste off the top rope, hit their Imperial Drop to win. It was a bit of a surprise, and you could tell the fans in Osaka certainly didn't expect the victory here. But United Empire are the new tag team champions, so now TMDK goes into World Tag League hungry instead of the reigning champions. And so that is an interesting one to me there. So we know that Hanare and Great-O-Khan aren't going to win World Tag League. We wouldn't expect them to, even if they weren't the champs. Now that they have the title, they certainly won't. But it puts TMDK in a situation where they're coming in pissed off. The tag team titles bounce around. They will. That's just kind of the way things go in New Japan. But this is another one that I would think hard on. Dunstan's questions is like, is this the best move here? Taking them off TMDK at this point, who I thought were pretty darn good champions. I don't know. How'd you feel about this?
I was totally fine with it. I think TMDK served whatever purpose they needed to with the title belts, as it were. Like,
okay,
if they went through World Tag League as the champions, I don't know. It just, the dynamic does not feel right. It didn't feel right.
Well, here's my question. Would it make more sense for TMDK to go into World Tag League as the champions, not quite win it, like the tag team champions often don't, and then do this switch, this United Empire switch at Wrestle Kingdom? I'm just like taking it off of them now so that I don't know.
I think they just really like Great-O-Khan. If that really what it comes down to, I think they like Great-O-Khan. They're putting a little bit more gas behind him, and they're going to make sure that he's got a good spot at Wrestle Kingdom. I see him being more viable to the company in like a prominent role than Shane Haste and Mikey Nichols. I think Shane Haste and Mikey Nichols are great tag team champions. They're not lighting the world on fire. They're not superstars. They're not huge in Japan. They're part of a huge faction, but they're not the driving force of what makes TMDK popular. They're a component of it. When I see Great-O-Khan, I see a guy that I think people actually really like this guy. He's really popular. And even if he's not going to win it, like the World Tag League, even if they don't win at Wrestle Kingdom, like they've got the provisional King of Pro Wrestling belt on him. They gave him the tag titles. Like they put him in the match with Moxley last year. There's all these little things that you look at. He beat Naito. There's enough evidence here to tell you that like they believe in this guy as one of those stewards until the rest of the next generation ready to take control. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I see it too. Let's do it.
All right. So we had that. And so now United Empire goes in as the champ. So after that, we had the Kenny Omega appearance. And this was simply Kenny walking out and getting a good ovation from the crowd in Osaka. They were happy to see him. And once he got out there, he of course speaks Japanese fluently. And so he did his promo in both Japanese and English. And he said he wants to return to wrestling soon. And he wants to do it in a New Japan ring at Wrestle Dynasty. Now, they didn't have anyone come out, really and confront. It was just basically, just him saying that I want to come back. And everybody was happy to hear it. We heard later, and this kind of shows you where Kenny might be physically. We heard from Chris Charlton later that he got into a physical altercation with Gabe Kidd in the back, but we did not see that. That was not put on camera. So I may tell you that maybe he's not exactly ready to come back and do anything physical quite yet, but he feels like he will. He says he's coming back at Wrestle Dynasty. I was relieved, of course, that the direction may be Gabe Kidd and not the tag team match with the Young Bucks.
I thought it was Path A to Hell and Path B to Hell for you.
Yeah, well, here's when the Young Bucks did their little video where they just said, we're back, and crickets chirped. I thought that had to be a warning sign for New Japan. There are other things that Huey and Dewey can do, and we'll talk about those in a little bit, because I think there's some ideas that would be better than. You got to remember, the Young Bucks were not huge stars in New Japan. They stood next to huge stars in New Japan. They stood next to Kenny. They were in his corner. They stood next to AJ Styles. He was in their corner. The Young Bucks in Japan were part of the junior tag title scene, which was not a main event scene. Like, most of their matches were before intermission, second or third on the card. They were good. Those matches were good. But especially at Wrestle Kingdom, they'd be similar to what they're doing this year in a four-way that's second on the show. So the idea that all of a sudden these guys are New Japan main eventers, that's not true. They weren't.
No.
And so the idea of having Wrestle Dynasty, a baseball stadium show built around guys who weren't main event guys against, now Kenny's a big star and Tanahashi's a big star, but it felt weird to me, and I'm kind of glad they're not heading that way, because there was no mention of them whatsoever on this show.
I have so many questions right now about all of this.
Yeah, it's very weird, but I have an idea of what they could do. But
please tell me what the Young Bucks can do.
Challenge for any of the tag team titles at Wrestle Dynasty. Again, either the heavyweight tag champs or the junior tag champs. Either one's a good
marquee tag team that the Young Bucks should be wrestling in New Japan right now.
Well, TMDK wouldn't be a bad match if they win it. Hell, would you be upset at seeing the Intergalactic Jet Setters or Catch 2-2 or Fujita and Eagles?
Wrestle for the junior tag titles at this point.
Probably not, because they think they're big stars even though they aren't. So why not the heavyweight tag team titles or something like that?
And then I'm asking you this: who is the franchise tag team that they would wrestle from New Japan?
Well, who do you think it would be?
I don't think we have one.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't think the Young Bucks are in this. I think the Young Bucks might be at Wrestle Dynasty, but I don't think they're main eventing it. You seem to think that they're going to be last.
I don't think they're main eventing at all now.
No, I'd be fine if they weren't. I would love it if they weren't, but I think they will be.
I am completely confused about everything right now. The thing that makes the most sense to me, okay, is the possibility that Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd have a match at Wrestle Kingdom, and they do that other match. But that doesn't make any sense to me at all, because we're not even sure Kenny Omega is going to be cleared in time to wrestle.
And he's only talking about Dynasty, not Kingdom.
I hear you. So now we're in a situation where if it's going to be Gabe Kidd and Kenny Omega in a special singles match,
and we don't know that,
it could be Gabe Kidd and the Young Bucks with like Kenny, Tanahashi, and somebody else.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I'm saying? There are things to this that all don't seem to make sense. There's no tag team right now that they can put up against the Young Bucks for a special tag match. There just isn't.
Well, what about? I mean, and I'm just spitballing here, but the idea that maybe he's not ready for a singles match yet, and it'll be a tag. If he's going at it with Gabe Kidd, Gabe Kidd's tag team partner is SANADA in World Tag League. Gabe and SANADA versus Kenny and Tanahashi versus Kenny, and you could do something like that. It's
entirely possible. It's just one of those. You on King of Pro Wrestling had a video in which the Young Bucks said they are going to be at Wrestle Dynasty. It will take a considerable amount to walk that back if they are not going to be on Wrestle Dynasty, or if there's not a viable, real match for them. That's just a part of it that I'm just kind of spinning in my head. It's like, you guys really went out of your way to make it clear that the Bucks were coming for the first time since 2018. So if this is going to be a half-ass thing, you're not going to get people to buy this paper.
I'm not sure that the Bucks against the IWGP World Tag Team Champions is necessarily a dud. I'm just saying, like whoever that might be, that could be a thing.
It's not that I think it's a dud. I think that right now the tag division does not have marquee stars in which getting the Young Bucks over to do a match with them, with whoever may be the IWGP tag champions after Wrestle Kingdom, is really just like, go ahead and take my money.
Well, that match doesn't have to draw the house either. So
It doesn't.
That's not the match that has to draw the house. Okay, so anyway, interesting things there with Kenny, certainly. We'll see how they spin that off. The other thing, Gabe, well, we'll talk about when we get to Lowell, but Gabe, yeah, well, of course, Gabe Kidd always has his sights on like 4 different guys at once. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of been a trope for him. He's been talking crap about Takeshita, and he said, it'll be interesting that Takeshita is going to be in Long Beach, isn't he? And he's going to be in Lowell and all this. So it sounds like he's on some sort of collision course with him too. So, but
that would be fun.
Yeah, Gabe works a lot of different fronts. So, Super Junior Tag League 2024 finals. So the boy was this match fantastic. So this was absolutely great. Let's talk about how we got there. We don't have time to really go over the last couple nights of block action, but Catch 2-2 advanced to the finals on tiebreakers. So at the end of Block B, they were 3-2 along with the Jet Setters and the team of Robbie X and Taichi Ishimori. Those were the 3 teams. Everybody was 2-2 going into the last night. Those 3 teams won their matches. The tiebreakers fell in favor of Catch 2-2, so they advanced. Mm-hmm. Fujita and Eagles made it. When they defeated Sho and Yoshinobu Kanemaru, that got them to 8 points, so they went 4-1. The only team that could upend them were the War Dogs, Connors and Maloney. They went into the final match with 6 points, and if they got 8 against Hiromu and Bushi, they would have had the tiebreaker over Eagles and Fujita. So that was the drama. The last match of the night was Bushi and Hiromu against the War Dogs. Bushi and Hiromu ended up getting the victory there. And so that kept the War Dogs at 6 points, allowed TMDK to advance. So really good action again there. I recommend going back and watching the final night of block action, both A and B. There were some terrific matches there. But that leaves us with our finals of the Ichiban Sweet Boys and Catch 2-2. This built over the course of 15 absolutely beautiful minutes. It was crisp, quick action all the way through. And when the near falls came, they were absolutely outstanding. There were multiple times, Jeremy, when I thought this match was over. I legitimately surprised that it wasn't. Part of it was how it was shot. They were very good about camera angles and not showing that the other guy was about to break up the pin. So it would be like 1-2, and this guy would fly into frame. Very great. Sweet Buster by TMDK was broken up. The Leaning Tower was broken up. So everybody hit their big ones, but neither team could get the pin. A fantastic pin scramble broke out where both teams kept going for big moves and surprise roll-ups and all this. The speed and rhythm of it was so much fun to watch. And in the end, Robbie Eagles managed to get the pin on TJP during that scramble. And Robbie Eagles, Kosei Fujita, your Super Junior Tag League champions for 2024. And man, was it a fun match to watch. My favorite of the night.
It was an instant classic. Everyone was on their A game. I had such a blast watching this match. And I was like, oh man, having Kosei Fujita and Robbie Eagles versus the Intergalactic Jet Setters on a one-on-one match at Wrestle Kingdom, man, that can be fire. So getting back to Dugston Williams' question, with the choice of the next title picture, which one outside of the world title would you change? Boy, let me tell you, when Intergalactic Jet Setters invited Catch 2-2 back out and then made this a 3-way, and then the Bullet Club came out and assaulted everyone and made this a 4-way, you killed me dead. You killed this entire tournament dead for me. Just
okay. Yeah,
why did we do that? What's the point of having a winner of this tournament who gets a title shot if the not winner of the tournament can grant three teams a shot at Wrestle Kingdom for their title?
Yeah, and of course the answer to this is so that New Japan could get 8 guys on the card.
Absolutely.
That's the behind the scenes answer. In kayfabe form, this tripped over itself. And what we had was the Jet Setters come out. Now they're the tag champs, so it's not weird for them to come out and square off with the winners of the tournament, right? I wasn't surprised a bit. So they came out. I think actually Eagles and Fujita called them out. Either way, they come out face to face, right? And then they waved Catch 2-2 back in the ring and say, well, you guys beat us. So we want to face both of you. And I'm just like, so that whole match was just for the trophy? Like, what was the point of that match? Is like, so there was no real prize in the match except the winner got the trophy, but both teams get the title match. And then he said the War Dogs came out and beat up everybody. And I guess that was just so everybody would get pissed off and put them in the match. I've seen better execution.
It was not the Jet Setter's right to grant anyone else a title match at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
Number one.
Yeah,
Number two, it should have been, and it almost was a dead giveaway when Kushida and Knight came out with the Bullet Club version of the IWGP tag titles, as well as their own version, because they decided to be feeling themselves at all. That should have been a dead giveaway that the Bullet Club would be coming out, trying to reclaim their titles. Should have seen it coming. Just fundamentally annoyed because I feel like I was invested in a Super Junior Tag League in which I wanted a winner to get a title shot, and they did. But the sake of getting everyone on the card, I can't fault it. But I would have loved 4 other teams on the pre-show potentially fighting for the next title shot after that.
Yeah,
that would have been something I would have been on for.
I absolutely agree with that. I think there's a way to do this, but this was very clunky. And Matthew mentioned, by the way, something that's with Fujita is really over with the Japanese crowd. Boy, he sure is in Osaka. They
like him a lot.
And everywhere really, but there is a charisma and a fire to Kosei Fujita that is clicking with the Japanese crowd. You're absolutely right. It's very satisfying to see. We mentioned it last week that class, that 2-man class of Fujita and Oiwa might end up being the biggest long-term young lion class of all, even ones with more guys and more people who eventually become stars. But
there's the most
that could be a pivotal
highest ceiling for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking around here. Dunstan said your thoughts. He thinks it's the best Super Junior final since 2018. I think it was so good. It was really fantastic. And what did he mention here? I think there was another one in here. But are people overthinking why New Japan would have made a 4-way match at the Dome? I don't think overthinking, but I think Jeremy's point is a solid one, that there were better ways to do what they did out there. But look, once we're watching this 4-way match with 4 excellent teams, we're probably going to forget about all that and just enjoy the match. But it is a fair point that storyline wise, this didn't make a whole ton of sense.
Didn't love it, but the match was so good, and all 4 teams, frankly, are so amazing that the 4-way is going to be like blow away awesome. People talking about it who watched the whole show. I got no doubt the junior heavyweight tag 4-way at Wrestle Kingdom. It's going to be great. I'm going to love it. It's just, I had that locked and loaded because that was a question asked of us about 5 minutes ago. And I'm like, you know what? I'm waiting until we get there. And I had my reasons.
IWGP Junior Heavyweight Singles title match was next. DOUKI and Master Wato. This was Wato's 4th challenge for the title, as it turns out. But the first time I thought he might actually win it. I thought that he actually had a real good chance. But it was a real good match. DOUKI ended up surviving the Vindaval, locked in the choke, the Italian stretch, DOUKI chokey. They worked in and out of it, but he kept getting it back on again. They would scramble around, and he would get the DOUKI chokey back again. In the end, Master Wato passed out. And I'm going through this one quickly, not because there was anything wrong with the match. It was a very good match. I recommend you go back and see it. It's just for time here. We're trying to compress things a little bit. Good match, but Wato not quite ready, maybe. And again, we've talked about this, that when a guy is off for a long time for injury, New Japan, he doesn't usually, not always, doesn't usually win the first big match back. It's a little early for someone coming off a long layoff to win your first big match. They've done it, but it's rare if you look. When people miss a lot of time, they tend to lose their first one back. Plus, they had other plans, which is, of course, Desperado coming back, and he is returning to the ring at Historic Crossover, but he came to the ring at Power Struggle to challenge DOUKI for the Tokyo Dome. And so we're going to get that rematch at Wrestle Kingdom. It'll be El Desperado and DOUKI, who have that long history with one another. And of course, Desperado is the reason Spot even opened up for DOUKI and recommended him from his time in Mexico. There's plenty of backstory that I think New Japan's going to really lean into between now and January. Should be interesting. And I'm looking forward to it. DOUKI and Desperado, but a good match for Master Wato, a good showing, and seemed like he's matured a little bit. I think the lack of the blue hair really does help. He looks more serious, and he wrestled well. I think he still has a big.
He wrestled with something to prove.
Yeah,
honestly. Like he wrestled it like, hey, don't forget about me. In a lot of ways. DOUKI, man. How many times do we have to talk about how great DOUKI is?
I've been banging the drum for years.
Just DOUKI and Desperado have the potential to be the best match on the card. At
really? Okay. Yeah,
it does. Like those two are so good, and at DOUKI's been on the pre-show of Wrestle Kingdom for the entirety of his career, and now he's going to be near the top of the card, defending the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. This is when you look around and like, how the hell did I get here, kind of thing. And so that's like DOUKI's been the steward. He's been great. Wato, he looks like he has not missed a step. He looks like the ACL injury has not hindered him in any way, and the way that they finished with the DOUKI Chokey throughout counters and trying to get out of it until he couldn't get out of it, and Wato died. It was a great match. I may have liked it a little bit more than the Super Junior tag final.
No, it was terrific. Matthew mentioned great finish to the title match. This is going to be a feud for years to come in New Japan. I think Wato's going to be in the mix for quite a bit of it. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think they had major plans for him before the ACL tear, and they can get to that next year, and that could involve DOUKI, Desperado, Hiromu, the usual cast and crew of that junior heavyweight division. Fujita someday is going to be the ace of it. So there's a lot there, a lot to mine, a lot to come. Good stuff. Then we had the global heavyweight title match, and boy, oh boy, so this one took a turn. What you had here is something interesting here. I like the way Chris Charlton mentioned that the crowd response for Taichi over the years has changed from, Taichi go home, and not because he was that badass of a heel, but because as a junior heavyweight, it wasn't clicking, to one of the crowd favorites and someone that the crowd really likes to get behind. And he took on the perfect heel for a guy that the fans like to get behind, and that's David Finlay. And this was really entertaining. Global heavyweight title match. It went over 20 minutes, 23-22 there. The match was good. Taichi also has the size to go toe-to-toe with Finlay, and that works. Fans were willing Taichi along here as he did the usual thing in the Finlay match, which is where the babyface takes a long beat down because that gives Finlay a chance to really talk to the crowd, act as cocky as humanly possible. And again, Finlay is one of those guys who are deceptively powerful. So he can throw even a bigger guy around or a taller guy around like Taichi, and then play to the crowd while Taichi's selling and things. All of this stuff kind of clicked for me. I thought this was real good. And Gedo seemed extra wound up at ringside, just a little extra animated. And there was a little extra caffeine in his coffee that morning. We found out why. As things came down toward the end, SANADA appeared at ringside. And, we thought, oh, maybe he's here to encourage Taichi and all that. Well, when Gedo got up on the apron, Taka Michinoku grabbed Gedo to neutralize him. Taichi able to hit Black Mephisto. But 1, 2, and the ref was yanked out of the ring. Again, good direction on the broadcast from New Japan. They didn't show who pulled him out, which I thought was really clever because they played it up that Taichi didn't understand who pulled him out. He was like, where's that bastard Gedo? He looks over. He's on the other side of the ring. That doesn't make any sense. And Taka's with him. Taka would have helped. The only person over there was SANADA. And at first, Taichi just refused to believe it was even him. SANADA slowly unzips the ring jacket and shows that he's wearing a War Dog shirt underneath it. They telegraph that great, and I've even seen a meme.
I popped so hard. I'm not going to lie.
I've even seen a meme, Jeremy, where it's just like, when your favorite guy walks to ringside wearing a jacket, like, oh, crap, that's not good news. He's got something else on under there. And it is becoming a New Japan trope. But as soon as he touched the zipper on that jacket, that whole crowd in Osaka was like, oh, no. He unzips it, and it's a War Dog shirt. Taichi can't believe it. He's just shaking his head no, waving it off. Like, no, this isn't happening. This isn't happening. It gives David Finlay a chance to whack him with the shillelagh, gets the 3 count as the referee turns around from being distracted by Gedo. It is the great betrayal. SANADA has left just 5 guys. The second guy to do it, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, already did. This is a transient group. But the Great Betrayal, he hits deadfall on Taichi after the match. And then Finlay called his own shot against Yota Tsuji, which is something I've been suspecting on this show for a while, that Yota Tsuji was David Finlay's opponent at Wrestle Kingdom. That does indeed look like the direction they're going to go. And then perhaps the most predictable match not announced right now for Wrestle Kingdom will be Taichi against SANADA in some fashion here. But I think SANADA's going to need a little is going to join the War Dogs. I think Taichi's going to need therapy for a while, because he played the betrayal beautifully. It's just how hurt he was by this whole thing.
I really enjoyed this. I thought the turn was done very, very well. Just everything about it made me feel like, okay, they have something going on here, and I am on board with it. So, is it interesting to you that SANADA has now taken a back seat and he is no longer the leader of a faction?
I think it is necessary, because I think him leading a faction was a bomb. I think that the Just Five Guys thing never panned out. I don't think he was good as a babyface. He was a disappointment as the heavyweight champion. It's just, some people aren't faction leaders, and I think SANADA isn't one. And it just didn't ever click with Just Five Guys. I think this might be, being the number two guy, the number one henchman, the number two guy, might be exactly where SANADA needs to be. Remember how we talked to Chris Sampson when he was on the show? Mm-hmm. We said the question has always been, is SANADA overrated? Is SANADA underrated? And we said, no, he was rated. Like, SANADA was rated. He was exactly where he should have been, like right behind Naito in LIJ. And it made us chuckle a little bit just to say that, but it didn't work. I mean, Just Five Guys was never a major thing. And even when they were all together, Taichi was the more charismatic of the two. I mean, like I said, like, there are times when SANADA soaks charisma out of his opponent in a match right there when he's not on. So as a babyface, he doesn't click. As a heel, this might work out pretty well. It's a more interesting SANADA to have him be the silent killer for another guy. And this might be just the thing. He's a talented dude. He's a good wrestler. But if he has to carry the charisma in something, that doesn't pan out. If he is the number one henchman to a charismatic guy, now we're talking a little bit. And I think it can work out better for him.
So,
yeah, Colin just mentioned, like I said, maybe he'll become interesting now. And Colin said something earlier in the show. But yeah, I mean, I agree. This might be exactly what's missing with SANADA. The silent assassin might be the smarter move.
Twitter user MJ Does PR had the best meme for this whatsoever.
Let's see it. It's not. Oh, yeah. There you have it. So for the folks on a podcast, we have SANADA when he turned his back on Taichi, and it's a Five Guys with the Five Guys burgers. With the F and the E out, so you just see you see IV, so Roman numeral 4 guys here. So 4 guys, and then is that Patrick Stewart pointing at him?
Yeah. So this is an amazing episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, where Patrick Stewart is getting tortured, I think, by the Cardassians, and they're negotiating.
The Kardashians? The Kardashians are
the Cardassians, I believe. Could be the Romulans, but I think it's the Cardassians in here. But
Kim and
they're
Courtney
trying to torture him and get him to admit that when he sees 5 lights, that they break him and admit that there are 4 lights. And so the Just Five Guys now being 4 is the callback to Picard saying, no, there are 5 guys.
So what's your take on one other thing? Like, what happens to Just Five Guys now? We're down to 4 guys. Do they bother anymore? Do they split this group up? Like, what
they can
do we go different directions?
Person, but I've been talking about the shakeups, everything that they're doing, and it really does feel like they are tearing down some of these factions. Like, they're adding into Bullet Club, but House of Torture, the SANADA and Evil kind of thing. Now they're kind of parallel again. Or how is that going to play out? Or are they just going to kind of ignore that kind of thing? There are little things that are happening that just kind of says maybe a little bit bigger cataclysmic changes within all these factions are coming sooner rather than later. We went a year with that strong style faction, and it got blown up. We went a year with 4 guys, 5 guys, and it could get blown up, and it would mean nothing to the rest of the faction. They could create an all new faction out of what was like burned to the crisp. They can do a lot of stuff. It's just until Yuya Uemura comes back, they're not going to do anything.
So we are going to talk about the main event now, and then after that, we're going to go over some of the comments, because a lot of you guys put comments in there, and we're glad you did. Yes. We want to get to them in order. A lot of the stuff going forward will fold into your comments. So we'll go into the main event between Zack Sabre Jr. and Shingo Takagi. Another superb match between these two, and you really can't miss. We didn't think they would. Yeah, I mean, it was brilliant. Zack worked on Shingo's neck and knees, and as always, Shingo's selling is fantastic. The pacing was terrific. Both guys did things to the other that made sense both strategically and in terms of how these two work a match in a smart way. It was a superb main event that just had twists and turns all the way through. And what I loved, Jeremy, late in this one, Shingo just had to power through all the pain in his knee and the pain in his neck, and he delivers a Last of the Dragon kind of out of nowhere, as close as you can deliver a Last of the Dragon out of nowhere, right? He just it wasn't really setting up for it, wasn't really but he just had desperation. If I don't hit this guy with something big, I'm going to lose this match. And so he swings from the fences and he hits the home run. He hits Last of the Dragon. He hits the home run, but he can't round the bases. His knee is gone. His leg is gone. He's laying there next to Zack. He can't cover him. And Zack, with the last dying spirit of him, rolls over into the ropes. And you just see Shingo Takagi deflate like he knew that was his chance. I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, it was just so well worked by those two guys. And it kept going. How long was this one? I'm looking at it. 29-28, so almost a half an hour. Did not feel like it at all. Fastest 29-28 you're going to feel all year as far as watching wrestling. And in the end, Zack hit the Sabre driver to win, which was a twist in the tail because Zack had always beaten him by submission before this. And this was the first pinfall win. Zack gets the victory. He thanks Shingo afterwards. Shingo gives him some begrudging respect on the way out. 2 superb professional wrestlers really at their peak here in this one, Jeremy. I can't say enough about the effort. I love the match. And, again, they have different directions. Shingo is the never open weight champion. He has things to do. There's some interesting developments within his own faction. He's got stuff to do. But anytime they want to bring these two together, I hope they're in the same block.
Let's make the magic, right?
I hope they're in the same block in G1 next year. So even if they aren't in the same feud or with each other, we get that clash again with these two, because they're wonderful artists that really bring out the best in each other.
We're crunched on time. You covered the main basis of this, the description. I agree with you on everything that you said about this. The only thing that I will add is that if you take the time to watch this match and you do not come to the conclusion that Zack Sabre Jr. is absolutely the right choice to be the IWGP champion right now, then maybe you and I can't be friends.
Yeah, I mean, he's just proving that he's on another level.
He's the guy.
He's the guy. All right, so afterwards, we've got a lot to cover even after this match. Shota Umino came out afterwards, and this time he was booed. People were like, wait a minute now. You're the one that's going to come. Well, of course, we knew that. Special singles match on a card with a world title match.
Know your role.
He said where and when is up to Zack, but he wants a title shot. Well, Zack said, I want to have the big match at Wrestle Kingdom, my God. I know that he, wanted the title match at Sumo Hall, but he wants to be part of the Dome. So after that, the crowd was like, yeah, boo for Umino. But then we got the streamers. Then we got Zack's music, but then it all stopped. And you could tell the crowd hushed. They were like, oh, good. There's going to be another angle. Suddenly, of all the people, the one that really surprised me, Ricochet's logo comes up on the screen, and Ricochet himself appears out of nowhere. Didn't even know he was in Japan. And he delivers a springboard clothesline to Zack in the middle of his streamers. And then says, yeah, he did it great. And actually, the closest he came with slipping was jumping up on the apron, instead of the springboard. So he challenges Zack for Wrestle Dynasty, saying he wants it. So He's about to deliver another shot to Zack. Shota slides in the ring, just like saying, hey, wait a minute, I got next to the champion. They tangle for a little bit. Zack takes exception to Shota Umino coming in, throws him out of the ring. And as he's drawing with Ricochet, Shota loses his temper and gives Zack the Death Rider and lays him out in the middle of the ring. I actually enjoyed all that. I enjoyed all of this, like all three of these guys kind of going at each other a little bit. I liked that Zack kind of teed off on Shota and threw him out, and I liked that Shota didn't take the crap. He went back in, laid out Zack Sabre Jr., held the belt over his head, and said, don't disrespect me. Do not look past me. I like that. That's the kind of edge he could really use. And so we are getting Zack and Shota at Wrestle Kingdom, and then we are getting Zack and Ricochet at Wrestle Dynasty. Now, Matthew makes a fair point. I just spent all that time talking about the Young Bucks and how they were not a main event act. Matthew mentions Ricochet was in the same role as the Bucks. His biggest accomplishment was the junior tag titles, and he was known as a junior heavyweight wrestler while he was there. Fair point. My only counter to that is that I don't think this match is just like the Bucks. My objection was the Bucks being perhaps in the main event of Dynasty. I just mentioned, I think there are roles for them on the undercard. I don't think this is going to end up being the most anticipated match at Wrestle Kingdom. I think that there are other things coming. Well, there have to be other things coming.
Wrestle Dynasty?
I don't even know if it's going to do that. We don't know that for sure, do we? I mean, none of those things have been announced.
It has a 1 and 2 chance, okay? And
yeah.
For the IWGP title, it's either that or it's a special match.
Yeah.
But there's a very real chance this is the main event.
It's a chance, yeah. But then the undercard, we'll see how that goes with it. But
also,
the other thing is, though, these two also have a reputation of having great matches with each other around the globe. So that's something that I think is taken into account a little bit there as well. Is that they just said, well, we can have however many star match with these two also to headline.
Let me ask you this. Do you have Naito and Hiromu main event Kingdom, and you have Sabre and Ricochet main event Dynasty, or do you make sure that you have like a top Japanese star like Tanahashi in a match?
Yeah. Well, Tanahashi, and I think we could very well see something like Takeshita in a major match at Dynasty. I think we could end up seeing possibly Okada and Ospreay. Hasn't been said out loud yet, but I think Dynasty is going to be a little bit more of a Wrestle Kingdom. I
showcase of all wrestling around the world.
More of I'm trying to think of a ensemble show.
Yes.
Than Wrestle Kingdom, which will be, the top heavy, the major matches and things. And keep in mind, we still don't know what Shingo Takagi is doing with the Never Openweight title on any of these shows.
Nope.
So I think there's still a lot of story to be told here. So, that was my thought on this. But I mean, am I looking forward to seeing Ricochet versus Zack Sabre Jr.? Hell yes. Absolutely. I think that match will be fantastic.
All right, so I think we covered most of that. Thumbs up show. There are people that did the whole New Japan it back after watching the show. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it was a really good show. Like this was a little early for that. Man. Like this was, if people are saying that, it means they were watching New Japan and they got a feeling, like they got really excited and feeling it. But New Japan has been cooking at this level for a while, but it's not cooking at a higher level than this. Like, and if you're,
it's a little early to say they're back, especially when crowds are down from this show from the previous year. They haven't convinced the fans of Japan that they're back yet.
The way I'm looking at Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty right now is they're building to next year's Wrestle Kingdom.
With Tanahashi's
even like the Shota match, like I don't see Shota winning. But like it's a story for a future Wrestle Kingdom kind of thing. There's a lot of things where they like to do the mythology of some of their top stars, like challenging and losing and making it part of their story. And so the real ascension is going to happen in a year for a lot of these guys who've been around for 2 years. It takes 3 years. It takes 3 years to make a main eventer.
Let's take a look at some of these comments. We got some really good ones, and I just wanted to get to them as I didn't want to jump the gun with some of these. Yep. Dunston's asking here, would it be satisfying to have Zack be the first Gaijin in years to win at the Dome, but not in a big, meaningful match? Well, By the way, if big meaningful meaning the main event match, I still think that he and Shota will certainly end up being meaningful because I think it's going somewhere with that. Keep in mind, Shota made a point at the press conference of mentioning Moxley and not really approving of his thing. So that's another guy that could pop up at Dynasty if they can work something out. And has a history, certainly has a history with New Japan, has been a champion. So there are chapters to this. But would it be satisfying? Yeah. As a matter of fact, if you have a big special match that you're going to put on last or something, this might be just the time for a Gaijin to win a foreign wrestler. I know Gaijin is, you're not supposed to say Gaijin anymore, whatever. A foreign wrestler to get the big win in the world title match might be just the year for that. If you're worried about, if you have an idea for somebody else who's more of a native star to send the crowd home with the final speech, then this might be just the year to do something like that. Let's see here. Do you think it's pretty left field to have Ricochet challenge for the world title at Dynasty? Yep, no. That was left field. Nobody had that on the radar. I don't think anybody sat there and predicted that it was going to be Ricochet. The only reason I'm happy with it is because I know that Ricochet's great. He and Zack work great together, so I am going to see a really good match. As a fan, that's a good thing. Left field? Oh yeah, I didn't think it was going to be Ricochet.
I don't know if left field. I'm not looking at left field the same way because when you think about it, it makes perfect sense as a match. There's a lot of history, and he's a guy that's trying to rebuild his reputation. And if he just sticks around in AEW, like he's not going to get anywhere. And yeah, I was saying Takeshita for a while, but I'm totally fine with Ricochet. The thing about left field is like he's not like a guy from Impact or anything. Like the dude with the thing around his ears kind of thing. Josh Alexander.
Yeah, Josh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like Ricochet does have cachet. He has come from WWE and he has spent time in New Japan. When all said and done, it's a perfect choice, and it's not Kenny Omega and it's not Chris Jericho and it's not a guy like that. But it's a guy enough that people are like, okay, Ricochet, I'm interested. Let's see what this is.
Yeah, and Flaming Shark mentions something important, makes an important point here. Glad to see Shark here. He says, I mean, if nothing else, Zack Sabre Jr. and Ricochet will be a great match. Perhaps it implies Ricochet is one of the AEW guys they want to work with more after Dynasty. Ricochet for G1 2025? I'm in. That kind of thing. Yeah. I still want Claudio in there, but I know that's a tough run for Claudio. But yeah, Ricochet would be a great G1 guy. If
Ricochet is this involved with New Japan in 4 months, I'll be surprised.
Dunstan says, what matches on the Wrestle Kingdom card have you excited so far? Desperado and DOUKI for sure.
Evil versus Tanahashi.
Evil and Tanahashi's intriguing. Not officially announced yet, but it's coming. But
no, the first match they announced.
Yes, sorry, we don't know the stipulation. I mean, pardon me, we don't know the stipulation. You're absolutely right. That has been announced. But yeah, that one's coming. We know that's. What do you think? Hair match? They're gonna do something, right?
Winner is no longer president.
You're gonna go that way. All right.
President.
All right. What else here?
It's a hair match. Probably a hair match.
Let's talk about the Lowell, Massachusetts show then. Oh, one more for Matthew. I did see one more I wanted to do here. He said with Fujita versus Gabe main eventing, so that'll bring us right into the Lowell show. And with Takeshita in the semifinal against TJP tomorrow, we might see the development of that Wrestle Kingdom match start or Wrestle Dynasty match start. Yeah, I think Takeshita is going to be involved in something important on that weekend in Tokyo. Man, well, certainly, yeah. I mean, goodness. I mean, if G1 taught us anything, that guy, he's a New Japan wrestler. He just doesn't know it yet. So, yeah.
I am so excited for the first match that we get to talk about at Fighting Spirit Unleashed. You know why I'm excited. So I'm going to let you get started.
Well, do you want to start with the main event and work down, or do you want to start?
No, we'll just go. We'll just run quickly through the lower card because that way we can kind of build to what the exciting main event is.
So the match that Jeremy is aching for, everybody, this is the one that has Jeremy on pins and needles on the edge of his seat. It is the kickoff Strong Survivor match of Matt Vandegrift versus Seabass Finn. Jeremy can barely contain himself. Jeremy, is Matt Vandegrift's run going to continue? I know you can't sleep or eat until you get the answer to this question.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. But here's why I was really excited for this.
I faked you out.
Ready for it?
Yes.
You ready? there's not a whole lot of times where I get to legitimately say, kick his ass, Seabass.
Well, yeah. His name's got to be Sebastian, right? Seabass? It's right there.
Probably, but Seabass Finn, kick his ass, Seabass. I've seen Matt Vandegrift. I want you to kick his ass.
And I don't know if you've seen the picture they're using. You know, they have the little thing where they have a photograph of each guy and the big Fighting Spirit Unleashed logo.
This dude looks like Spike Dudley.
Seabass Finn, his head is unnaturally large in this photo. Just unnaturally large.
He's mean mugging, but he's like if Timothy Thatcher and Spike Dudley had a kid.
That's very well put. Shark says it feels like it'll be solid up and down the card rather than any one Wrestle Kingdom match that stands out too much. Well, we don't know the whole card yet, so we'll see what turns out. What else do we have at Fighting Spirit after that? So first, that was the kickoff match. First match on the main card: David Finlay versus Kevin Knight. I don't think this bodes well for Kevin. I think David Finlay is basically a heel steamroller going through likable baby faces here, but I think Kevin Knight will put up with some entertaining resistance for a while.
Yeah, hell of an opening match. Gonna kick the audience right into gear. David Finlay being the big bully, Kevin Knight doing all those high flying moves, jumping over the ring. David Finlay catching him. Great.
All right. And after that, strong open weight tag team championships. TMDK lost the IWGP ones, but they still have these belts, and they will take on one of my favorite teams. I'm really happy that they're in New Japan. I get to see them, the grizzled young veterans, James Drake and Zach Gibson, who have been freed of their crappy NXT gimmick and can now wrestle as the excellent tag team that they are. Good Liverpool lads. So I'm always a fan of that. We support the same team. But point being, Grizzled Young Veterans are a great team. So is Mikey Nichols and Shane Hayes. So this should be fabulous. TMDK, Grizzled Young Veterans. And I'll tell you what, they could put the belts on Grizzled Young Veterans. Wouldn't break my heart.
They could. These are both two teams in a lot of ways. In a different world, this would have been a high caliber dream match. We should appreciate this match happening at all. Honestly, these two teams coming together, they are two of the best teams of their generation, and this might be one of the first times they've ever faced off. I haven't done that to check for sure, but it sure feels like it.
Yeah. And Drake and Gibson also terrific talkers too. So, I mean, they're good on the microphone as well, so they can do all of it. After that, what should be just a fabulous showcase match of really fun athleticism, Leo Rush, Mustafa Ali. Yes, all day.
Have they done a match before?
Have they done a match before? I'm not sure. I'm
looking it up right now because I think they might have.
Colin is saying, are we taking bets on the production being crappy like it usually is? I'm not taking bets on it, Colin, because there's no way on earth I am betting against it. Of course it's going to be crap. For whatever reason, that production crew cannot mic a crowd and can barely light a room. So,
they faced off at Resurgence.
Okay. Who won that one? Was that Ali?
Mustafa Ali beat Leo Rush at Resurgence.
Well, I know where my money is going on this one.
Oh, hey.
Well, he gets the win back, right?
Probably.
They don't have to protect Ali like they did for a while there when he was doing his gimmick. But fourth match is a 2 out of 3 falls. The West Coast Wrecking Crew, Royce Isaacs and Jarrell Nelson, against Dirty Work, Fred Rosser and Tom Lawler, as part of the long angle with the breakup of Team Filthy and Fred Rosser becoming from enemies to friends. So 2 out of 3 falls in this one.
I love that they bring these guys in to do these matches as the two most prominent tag teams that New Japan Pro Wrestling has stateside, and yet can't be bothered to put them in World Tag League.
Fair enough. NJPW Strong Women's Championship #1 contender 4-way match. And so here we have 2 stars from Stardom, Hazuki and Koguma. And Koguma is fantastic. We already know that Hazuki is very, very good as well. We've seen Hazuki against Mercedes Moné. I think there was a 3-way match with Hazuki, Azumi, and Mercedes. It was terrific. And then we also have Anna Jay from who's been to Stardom, was in that, and then Trish Adora. So we have some AEW in here. We've got a little bit of Stardom in this one. I'm leaning toward Anna Jay winning this one, but you could go in any direction here and come out in a good spot. Hazuki seems like the least likely, only because she's actually already been in a 3-way match with that. So she was, to me, is the underdog, but it's not impossible. Trish Adora, Koguma, Hazuki, Anna Jay. Winner gets Mercedes Moné down the road.
I'm going to be really surprised if Anna Jay wins this match, because I feel like Mercedes Moné versus Anna Jay is a match Tony Khan would be saving for himself. He would have her in this match, and
That's fair. That's fair.
Like, that's not happening in a New Japan show. You know what I mean? Like, it could, but I feel like he would much rather have it like main event a TV show of his own. Rather, there's something about it. I think Hazuki or Koguma are probably going to be one of the people that Mercedes faces in Long Beach as a result for this one. It kind of scratches that itch of her getting to wrestle the Japanese talent that she's been wanting to face. And I'm going to go with one of those two. Steven?
Koguma, her gimmick is that she's kind of, happy and cute, and she's, the Kuma is bear in Japanese. She does the Kuma roll. She does the thing where she puts her hands on her head like she's got bear ears. She does the intentionally kept secret is that when Koguma kicks it into high gear, she wrestles at Stardom main event level. She absolutely does. And she and Husky are FWC, one of the best tag teams in the world. I mean, male, female, anything. That is a brilliant team. So it's going to be good. It'll be interesting to see them against each other. And Colin says, I hope she does the Kuma dance, which is that thing I was talking about with the bear thing. And then Colin says, I'm going to miss the shows. Oh, I'll be in the hospital, which is rotten timing. Well, the good news is that yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, best wishes to you. But then the good news is, again, not pay-per-view. It'll just be there on NJPW World whenever you're able to catch it there. So
pull up the phone, watch it on your phone, prop it on the little table ahead of you.
Yeah.
Sip on some milk. I don't know.
Now, next match, sixth one, is the LIJ team that's going into World Tag League. The Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji facing the Undisputed Kingdom, Matt Taven.
What the hell is this match?
Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. Should be a good match. Considering Shingo and Yota are going into World Tag League, I expect them to win. Doesn't seem like a time to be jobbing either one of those guys, but it's be a good match.
I think the last time Matt Taven was on a New Japan show, he won the Ring of Honor title.
Oh boy, that's probably right. And all that stuff with Maria Kanellis, right?
The Supercard of Honor on the ladder. And the Ring of Honor, New Japan Supercard of Honor 2018. That might have been the last time I've seen Taven on a New Japan card. I hope Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji remind him of the disrespect. This was. They're baby faces now over in AEW, but they're probably going to be heels here. They're great. I actually love these two guys because I think that they do tag team wrestling exceptionally well. But this is where you're seeing the cooperation among the AEW talent being, a couple miles away in Boston over the next couple days, and then, springboarding to have them. They did like ticket. You could buy like bulk tickets or not. Like the 3 tickets for all the different shows was like 30% off if you bought multiple, like 2 different days. So a lot of arrangements between AEW this weekend and New Japan.
Ryohei Oiwa and Kenta will be the 7th match. It's a special singles match here. And again, I would hope that this is Oiwa going over here. Kenta can probably give him a tussle and then have Oiwa get the victory. And, who knows? Again, special singles matches tend to lead to things on New Japan shows. We'll see if we see Oiwa again later in the night.
Upper half of the card. Pay attention to that.
TMDK, Bad Dude Tito, and Zack Sabre Jr. Yeah, we're always happy to see Tito. Teaming with Zack again against Tomohiro Ishii and Shota Umino.
How many times is Shota Umino going to get a pin on Zack Sabre Jr. before Wrestle Kingdom?
Yeah, well, I'm curious to see if they do something like that here. That's that. I'm very.
We'll have at least 2 opportunities. This match and the one in World Tag League.
9th match is for the AEW International Championship. We got an AEW title match on this show. The belt on the line, Konosuke Takeshita against TJP. Now, there's almost no chance of TJP actually winning this thing unless Takeshita gets hurt or something. But should be an entertaining match. And again, I do like the idea of keeping Takeshita in front of New Japan audiences with Two-Night Tokyo Dome coming.
Did you get the storyline reason for why we're having this match?
And just an open challenge.
Also, United Empire betrayal.
Well, that's true. Yes. Yeah.
Like they're trying to channel that a little bit as well, and I'm sure that'll be brought up in the AEW aspect of it if they're trying to keep the lineage. I don't know if they're really worried about that here on the New Japan side, but there's definitely they were all working together back in the G1, and now, with Takeshita turning on Ospreay over in AEW, this is kind of trying to right the ship in terms of making sure that everyone is aligned in the right way.
Yeah, Kyle Fletcher's gone rogue, hasn't he? And Mark Davis
has.
isn't happy about it, seemingly. So we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, they got a little faction over there going on.
The main event will be the NJPW Strong Openweight Championship match between Kosei Fujita and champion Gabe Kidd.
So,
yeah, should be a terrific match. And what can you say? I mean, if I would be surprised if they switched it. It's not impossible, but Gabe Kidd
switching this.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it, but I feel like this is a good time for Fujita to do one of those things where you're the underdog babyface who gets to the absolute precipice before falling just a tiny bit short. And I have a feeling he's going to be the one getting the standing ovation from the crowd afterwards. Though.
Let me put it to you this way. I don't see Gabe Kidd losing a whole lot of matches unless Kenny Omega gets involved after he gets into built up a feud with Kenny Omega in some way, shape, or form. You don't make a guy look weak before putting him up against one of the biggest deals in pro wrestling. So that's kind of my stance on that. But this match is going to rule.
So we got another announcement. That's the Lowell, Massachusetts show again on NJPW World tomorrow. And we'll see. Again, there's that Ryohei Oiwa match where it's just screaming out for him to come out and challenge somebody afterwards for that. Anyway, what we also have is World Tag League. The teams are announced. Now, on the show next week, we will be looking hardcore at both Historic Crossover and World Tag League, because this will be the show where we can preview each of those. There is a house show coming up. I want to double check that there is a house show in Enjo coming, but not a lot of New Japan action other than Historic Crossover. And then we get into World Tag League, I believe, on the 19th. So,
cool. Thank you. I didn't know when it started. I appreciate you.
Yeah, the 19th. So we will, of course, be previewing that on the show next week.
Also, a reminder for people programming note, while World Tag League will be going, we will be skipping a week. So we'll have a super show in the after Thanksgiving week, but we will have some programming that we put together for everybody to fill for the void. It just won't be contemporary to the World Tag League.
Yeah, we're off Thanksgiving, basically, is the point we're making, since the show's on Thursday. So Fighting Spirit Unleashed is the only thing that's on New Japan World proper. Now, we'll be back, of course, next week on the 14th. On the 12th is the Taichi Ishimori Gets Ridiculous pay-per-view. So that will be available for purchase on New Japan World, should you so choose.
Are you taking the hit on that one?
I wasn't planning on it. I don't think this really has much canon to it. I think this is just going to be something.
He doesn't lure me in the way the Desperado festival did.
So here are the teams, though. The World Tag League teams have been announced. So let's talk about some of the teams in these. So here's A block. We have Bishamon, of course, the mainstays, right?
Winner of the last three.
Yeah. Gabe Kidd and SANADA. So that's the new War Dogs team, heavyweight War Dogs team. Alex Zane and X, a surprise entrant. And we know it is not Lance Archer. We loved that team last year, but they are bringing back Alex Zane, but he is in with somebody new. We don't know who. We'll find out later. And then, of course, Chase Owens and Kenta as the Bullet Club entry, the traditional Bullet Club entrant. Zack Sabre Jr., the world champs in this, again with Ryohei Oiwa. So Oiwa and Sabre. Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji are in the same block. Shota Umino and Tomoaki Honma. So they can have Shota in there, but he's not going to be a factor there because they can always just have Honma do the jobs. And in a similar fashion, although not as severe as Honma, Jeff Cobb, Callum Newman, so where Newman can do the jobs and they can protect Jeff. Of this group, Bishamon obviously is going to be a factor, and they'll get some points. I got to think that Gabe Kidd and SANADA, you can beat Kidd because his temper can get the best of him. He can get disqualified, all these kind of things with Gabe Kidd. But I expect Gabe Kidd and SANADA. I don't expect SANADA to be doing many jobs at all because they got to establish him as a war dog, right? After that, Sabre and Oiwa, I don't see them. You can have Ryohei Oiwa lose every once in a while. Here is another spot, Jeremy, where and then Jeff Cobb and Newman, like I mentioned, you can have Newman do jobs. But this is another point where Zach and Shota are going to meet up before the Wrestle Kingdom match. But with Tomoaki Honma in there, it's hard to imagine Shota getting a win over Zack. And there are only a couple of teams where both guys are protected. Shingo and Yoda, Zack and Oiwa, Bishamon, Gabe Kidd and SANADA. Kidd to a lesser extent. Oiwa's done a couple of jobs, that type of thing. So just off the top of my head, I'm looking at Shingo and Tsuji and Bishamon here. But I also feel like there's going to be somebody else that's pretty heavily involved.
So I wouldn't rule out... Man.
It's tough, isn't it?
Bishamon maybe, but I also would not rule out SANADA and Gabe Kidd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're not going to want to make SANADA look like a putz after turning him heel.
Right.
Like
I think whatever this is, I think will lead to SANADA and Taichi at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yes.
Because I think that's eventually the end game.
Yeah.
So we can get that going. But I also wouldn't be surprised if for the most excitement they wanted to do LIJ versus LIJ in the World Tag League final.
Right? It's possible.
Yeah.
B block. Great O'Khan and Hinare, the World Tag Team Champions. So you know they're going to take care of them. They don't have to win the thing, but they're not going to job out. Taichi and Taka Michinoku. Well, Taka's there for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
TMDK. Now they're angry and hungry. They've lost the tag team titles. Now their only way to get back into it is to win this thing. So they will probably be taken care of whether they win the thing or not. I'm not saying that, but this isn't a team that's going to be doing a ton of jobs. Tanahashi and Jado. They're for probably the same reason Taka Michinoku is. He can take the falls for that team. We have Tomei and Stevie Phillip. That's an Australian team. They're coming over from the Tamashi end of things. So
the natural classics.
Exactly. Toru Yano and Oleg Bolton. Intriguing, but probably not going to be in for the finals. And then you have Ren Narita and Evil. Now, considering Evil, Ren Narita's in the TV title match at Wrestle Kingdom. Evil's going to be in a prominent match with Hiroshi Tanahashi. I expect this team to score a lot of points in this block. So you have the champs, you have TMDK, you have Naito and Hiromu, you have Ren Narita and Evil. That's a pretty top-heavy block.
How does post-block play work?
Well, we're gonna really break this thing down next week. So,
no, I'm just saying, like, are two teams advancing or just one?
I believe it is just two.
Okay.
I believe it is just two.
Two per block, I mean, or just like one team from each block.
No, I think I like the winner of the blocks. I'm not really sure. Okay. To be honest, I'm not sure.
There's a lot
I'm trying to find out now.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Naito and Hiromu, man. I feel like they're like whatever story is happening, even if they're not winning, the story's about Naito and Hiromu. You know what I mean? Like when they're going to be on the TV, that's what you're paying attention to. So I think the longer you want to draw out that story, it's probably going to be pretty important. You know, you got the other like adjacent stuff, like Tanahashi and Evil are going to have a match. And when that happens, you know, the scissors are probably coming out again. Other than that, you know, Nichols are probably going to end up looking pretty strong. You think they're going to beat Great O'Khan and Hinare in the block? I kind of think they do. But in all honesty, the parody in all this, and it could be a lot of fun. But this is not going to be the thing that just like, oh, this really sells Wrestle Kingdom on me. This is just a vehicle to get all the stories locked in. And I'm here for it.
So before we go for this week, I want to go over what we know will be at Wrestle Kingdom and what we know will be at Wrestle Dynasty. There's not a whole lot for Dynasty, but we know some things. For Wrestle Kingdom, like you said, we know it will be Evil versus Tanahashi. We expect there to be some sort of stipulation attached to that coming at a Labor date. We will see Zack Sabre Jr. defending the World Heavyweight title against Shota Umino. Yota Tsuji will challenge David Finlay for the global title. DOUKI will defend the junior heavyweight title against El Desperado. The TV title will be up in a three-way match with Jeff Cobb challenging Ren Narita along with Ryohei Oiwa as the other challenger. IWGP Junior Tag Team title match, the Intergalactic Jet Setters defending against Fujita and Eagles, Catch 2-2, and the War Dogs group. For Wrestle Dynasty, the only thing we know is Ricochet and Zack Sabre Jr. There have been, you know, that we expect there to be a Kenny Omega match, a Tanahashi match. I would imagine the Shota Umino is doing something there as well. I mean, a lot of the guys are going to be working both nights, of course, but what we don't know is really how those matches are going to play up, what the storylines are going to be. We'll be finding that out in the next few weeks. The only thing we know for sure for Dynasty at this moment, as of recording this, Ricochet and Zack Sabre Jr.
And I'm here for it. It'll be a lot of fun.
Should be. So next week, is Scott going to be here with us, Jeremy?
Probably. Haven't heard from him, but
if he is, if it has, we'd like to have Scott Edwards come on to talk about the historic crossover.
He was very excited to talk about historic crossover. I'm not going to throw him under the bus or anything, but I kind of think he's going to be here.
Okay, well, we'll iron all that out. If not, we will preview historic crossover, whether Scott's with us or not. We will also look at, take a much closer look at the World Tag League. And of course, like a lot of the things with these tournaments, the first night and the last night lineups tell you an awful lot about who's going to be involved and how. So once all that becomes a little more clear, those lineups are not yet available, should be by next week. We'll be able to talk a little bit more about those. So again, on NJPW World, we have Fighting Spirit Unleashed tomorrow. Make sure you check that out. World Tag League begins the 19th.
Eastern.
Historic crossover on the 16th. Like the guy said, that is a $35 pay-per-view. That's a little pricey, but nevertheless,
buddy.
It's a lot. That's fair. That's a fair point. That's a lot to ask on top of the streaming service already right there. But I do think it's going to be an intriguing card. I'm a fan of both companies. I'm going to get it. They've got my money. So what can you say? We'll check it out.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, 4:00 tomorrow for Fighting Spirit Unleashed on the West Coast. Early show for us here. So yeah. I'm excited for that. I'll be in bed at my normal bedtime for my wake-up call for work, and that's always a crowd-pleasing moment.
certainly with the crowd in your house, no question about that. So,
oh man.
Anyway, we really had great comments today and really good questions. I appreciate everybody that took the time to do that because we're really, really grateful. And to everybody who spends time with us here live on YouTube or later on as a podcast, boy, we're really happy that you've decided to spend your time with Jeremy and myself. Yeah. We really appreciate it. We love doing the show. By our count, this is the 135th time Jeremy and I have done one of these in some form or another, sometimes only as a podcast, sometimes only as a YouTube, sometimes as both. But just the fact that we get to do this every week, we consider ourselves very lucky men.
And if you can't get enough of me personally, I started writing once a week, little news and notes about New Japan Pro Wrestling at fightgamemedia.com. Conway will probably throw some stuff in there at some point, but it's just kind of like something on a Monday morning to throw out there and just kind of keep the website and our own podcast kind of search engine optimization and all that. So we just try and keep it out there. So if you want to check out those things, go to Fight Game Media, look me up, Jeremy Finestone, and you will find all of that stuff there. And we will also be having a very special project from Stephen Conway very soon that you'll all be able to really appreciate. So look forward to that this holiday season.
Power Bombshells coming up at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. Don't forget about that, our sibling show there, Dynamite show on Wednesdays, and then we'll be back on Thursday. So with that in mind, for Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. Thanks for listening to Speaking the Strong Style. We will talk to you again real soon.